Hi everyone and welcome back to GoLocal Live. I'm GoLocal News editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for kicking off your Friday afternoon and start to the weekend with us here in downtown Providence. Would like to welcome in my next guest. Retired captain of the East Providence Police Department, Joe Broadmeadow, turned author, and Bobby Wallison are here to talk about their new book, Unmade. Joe, I'll reach across and welcome you in.
Thank you,
Bobby,
Kate.
say thanks for coming in
Thank
as
you.
well.
Thanks for having me.
This is your story, kicked out of the house at 12, 15, sent to prison as an adult, and then a little bit of a life in organized crime. And there's more to this story that you're here to tell. So let's start with Joe about partnering up with Bobby to tell his story.
Sure. Bobby and I met at another book signing of mine for a book I did with Jerry Tillinghast. And Bobby and I talked a little bit, and I know a little bit about his story from having heard him on Crime Town and various things. And so we talked, and once I knew the story, his background of having been thrown out of the house by, the age of 12 and ended up in prison, at a very young age, it differentiated his story from other people. So we talked a little bit. Bobby had done some work on the book, and we decided that we would put the story together, and that's why we're here today.
So Bobby, did you think you'd be here today with a book telling your life story when you were 15 years old?
Actually, no, not when I was 15, but about 20 years ago, I began to write certain things down, and I realized that I had a book. And I met a gentleman named Michael Correnti, who's a Rhode Island film director that a lot of people know. And he wanted to do a movie, so we got a hold of Bob Lucy to do the writing. Bob Lucy's was known as Prince of the City, and he was a New York cop who just couldn't take the corruption of the New York police, and he kind of went after them all, and that's how the movie came about. But meeting him was an incredible thing in itself. And when he started writing it, it was so smooth and easy on what I was telling him. And I would talk to him for an hour, and he would get back to me a week later and say, "Come on up again, I want to talk to you again." And it became something, but it didn't get very far. There was certain reasons why it didn't get published, and I kind of put it down for about 15 years, 16 years.
And then you hooked up with Joe.
Well, actually, I met my wife, and her and I wrote a couple of screenplays about it.
Okay.
And we almost knocked it to the moon with that, but fell short, because in this business you fall short a lot. And then after Jerry's book, The Choices, did so well, I all of a sudden got a phone call from Joe saying, "Hey Bob, you ready to do this?"
Okay.
I said, "Yes, I'm ready, let's go." He said, "All right, here's step one."
There we are.
And here we are. The book's finished. He did a great job. He did a fantastic job. And I give a lot of credit to my wife for a lot of chapters and their support. And I mean, this is a story. It's not about the mob. It's not about organized crime, whatever that may be. This is a story about my life. Once I was out of the prison and dropped off up Federal Hill to continue my search, I just happened to meet a lot of family members and good friends up there. I'm nothing other than unmade. That's what I am. And I made my unmade my own way. I did this my way. Nobody else. I don't owe anybody anything, and I'm not associated to any organization. In the book, you'll see that there's some love for certain people that I just will never give up. I'll always love them, always. When I go by Federal Hill, my heart pours out because of the friends that I've had over the years. That was my first family. I never had a family growing up. My first family was my men from Federal Hill, my friends, my buddies. And it's just, when you read the story, you're going to see that this isn't a mob story. Please don't take it for that. Don't buy the book if you think it's a mob story, because it's not. I don't want to disappoint you.
It's a life story. It's your life. And I've been through the first couple of chapters. It's a great read. Joe's such a talented writer. But you go into how, as you said, not having that family, having a difficult father, I would say, is an understatement. And how it sort of set you down the path that you were on. Joe, talk with us a little bit. Every book's unique. talk with us about working with Bobby to really tell his story in a way, as Bobby just said, it's not a mob story.
No, and I think that's what attracted me to the story from the beginning was not, I mean, there's a million stories out there about, especially in Rhode Island, about organized crime. That's not what the story's about. The story's about a 12-year-old boy who survived out on the street on his own. When I was talking with Bobby about that aspect, I was remembering what I was doing when I was 12 years old. The most difficult decision I had to make was, do I try out for shortstop or do I try out for third base? That was the and I trouble, that those decisions were difficult for me. Here he is surviving, so that is what attracted me to it, because not only does he survive that, but he had very little guidance. He was on his own. He ends up in prison. He gets involved with some people up there who essentially, I mean, some of them treated him pretty well, but quite frankly, some of them saw an opportunity because Bobby's a tough kid. And he survived that life. And the really interesting thing is how he turned his life around once he recognized that he needed to get away from that whole environment, and he became very successful as a business person. And that says a lot about him. What the book kind of illustrates is that, Bobby always had that potential. When he was 12 years old, that potential was there. He actually, in the book, we talk about an opportunity where he had been offered a scholarship to go to LaSalle, and his father wouldn't let him go. Well, can you imagine what would have happened had that opportunity been presented to him, and had he gone to a place like LaSalle? We would be telling an entirely different story here. And but he still rose from it. He still came out of that, in the big scheme of things, he came out of it really well. And I've talked to a lot of different people about Bobby, and for the most part, on people on all different all different sides of life, and they all have a lot of respect for what he ended up doing. He made some bad choices way back when. Everybody does, but he, in the big scheme of things, when you look at the totality of the circumstances of his life, I think that's what makes it a really interesting story.
Bobby, what do you want folks to read this book? I mean, what's your hope that people will take away when they read your story to, again, that journey from being kicked out at age 12, going to prison, being up on the Hill, and then that decision to say, hey, I'd like to turn my life around. What do you want folks to take away from this when they read this book?
Well, you kind of wrapped it up there. But what I would like for them to get out of it is the fact that no matter what position you're in life, which way you came up, what type of abuse you've gone through, oh my God, you can't get out of your own way because of it, that's nonsense. Whatever situation that comes, you have to deal with it, and you can deal with it. If I can deal with it, you can deal with it. It's that simple. But when I say deal with it, I don't mean just kind of overcome the ooh and the yaw. I mean do something about it. Overcome it by creating something in your life, starting a new life that's not anything that'll set you back towards what you've been through to get there. You got to go forward. And by reading this book, I think you'll get a lot of that out of this book, and it'll help a lot of people in a lot of ways.
Are you looking forward to going on a book tour together and talking with folks out throughout the state?
Yeah, actually, we're looking forward to tomorrow evening at Venda Ravioli. We'll be sitting on that side, Joe and I, and it's exciting. It's exciting what's happened here. And to be #1 on Amazon, that was incredible. I never thought that would happen.
Well, lots to discover here in the book, the story of the life of Bobby Wallison, as written by Joe Broadmeadow in conjunction with Bobby. I appreciate you both taking the time to come in here. Give folks a little bit of a teaser that they'll have to read the rest of the book.
Thank you very much.
Again, Unmade. We'll provide the links, as you said, on Amazon as well. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back here on Go Local Live with our next guest here in downtown.